Attention listener. If you can hear this, then you've tuned in to our top secret radio frequency. But not to be alarmed. Kick back, relax, and enjoy. We're talking about Marvel and DC, but they don't have it all. At Star Wars, that's easy, but you know who to call. I'm talking about ZaneMan and Jonni Boy. The powers overflow. With a master plan, they will deploy on the Hero Chat Show.
Welcome to the Hero Chat Show, where we share every 2 weeks a movie that we've seen, a movie coming up, a TV show, one coming soon, and possibly, and today we will, a video game.
Yeah.
It's mostly DC, Marvel, and Star Wars.
Could be other stuff.
I'm Jonni Boy.
I'm ZaneMan.
Today we're discussing DC's The Batman.
The Batman, the very, very long movie.
Yes. Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi, episodes 1 through 3.
Yeah, as of recording, it's gone up to episode 5, I believe.
That is correct. And then Star Wars, we're going to go to Blast from the Past, Jedi Fallen Order, and talk a little bit about the new game, Jedi Survivor.
There you go. Only had to remind you at least 3 times.
All right, so shall we get into it?
Start off.
It's the Hero Chat Show at the movies.
It's The Batman.
Yeah.
Release date was March 4th, 2022, so we took a jump in our time machine and went back in time.
Yeah, it is on streaming services.
Got on the good old HBO.
Yep.
So The Batman, Bruce Wayne is Team Edward from Twilight, Robert Pattinson.
Yep, that's him.
Team Edward. Zoe Kravitz plays, that's Lenny Kravitz's daughter, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Selena Kyle, Catwoman.
Mm-hmm.
Lieutenant James Gordon, he's not commissioner.
Not yet.
Jeffrey Wright. Colin Farrell plays Oz the Penguin. Paul Dano plays the Riddler. Andy Serkis, Gollum in Lord of the Rings, plays Alfred.
Pretty cool.
He also played Caesar, Planet of the Apes.
There you go.
Directed by Matt Reeves. I think it was on IMDb. It says, when a sadistic serial killer begins murdering key political figures in Gotham, Batman is forced to investigate the city's hidden corruption and question his family's involvement.
Yeah, and it's set in year 2 of Batman, so he's not the world's greatest detective yet. He's still working on that.
Yeah, he's a little sloppy in this one. He does kind of show his colors a little bit, not being the Batman that we all know and love, ready for action.
That's exactly right. I mean, he's only starting to be like a tiny bit emo and not like the Knight, and he's not fully Batman yet.
Yeah, he's got that cycle attuned to Nirvana's Something in the Way.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he's listening to Nirvana.
It's a song that he's listening to all the time.
He's trying his best to be like this emo boy, but he just can't be the world's greatest detective.
Yeah, I think he's still too hopped up on the Nirvana.
Yeah.
And he likes to run around, still with the makeup around his eyes that makes him look all tired and worn out.
I mean, he is. He stays up every night watching the footage from his little...
his little contact lens eye cam or whatever.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
The contact lenses that double as eye cams.
So we saw this in the theater originally, and I really wanted to make the first episode about talking about the Batman, but we were still waiting on our jingles and stuff like that, so we kind of got behind that, and our first movie was not the best to start off on, Morbius. So the Batman we saw in the theaters originally. Now, we did the rewatch. I don't know, we didn't watch it together. So when I first watched it, fell asleep.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well,
yeah, I watched like half of it, fell asleep.
I mean, it's a 3-hour movie, right?
It's pretty long. And then tried to watch it again from, I think, the point that I stopped watching it, fell asleep again.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's a 3-hour movie.
I mean, no pause if you got a big drink and a popcorn going to the bathroom, because you're going to miss all the Batman fun.
Yeah.
Third time's a charm, though, because when I watched it the third time, I was awake. I was into it.
That's good. I mean, it only took 3 tries to finally watch it.
I was into it before when we saw it in the movies, but for some reason, being on the couch, I was,
Did you just like fall asleep listening to Nirvana?
I did Nirvana, and I woke up and I had these dark rings around my eyes. Maybe I was Batman. Maybe I was the Batman.
That was it.
That's what happened. I think that's what happened.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's like, I guess it's contagious at this point.
Probably so. I mean, I do like Nirvana, although, it's not considered classic. Well, that's considered classic rock now, but at the time it wasn't considered classic. But it's been 30 years. Hard to believe. This song plays a lot in the movie besides Nirvana's Something in the Way. It's Ava Maria. So that song starts off playing. It's a voyeuristic view is what I wrote down through binoculars.
Did you use like a thesaurus for that?
I had to look up how to spell voyeuristic.
Do you know what that means?
And binoculars, by the way.
Oh, you didn't know it?
I didn't know how to spell binocular. I knew it was B-I-N, but the oculars got me. I don't know why. At a red ninja son fighting his dad. And you're thinking, hey, is this Bruce Wayne? Is this Thomas Wayne?
I mean, it could be, but it's not.
Could be. Now, we got to tell people, we're just starting out, but we got to tell people spoilers. Hopefully you've seen the Batman by now. I mean, but if you haven't, cut this off. Go watch the Batman.
I mean, it is going to be a little bit spoiler heavy depending on what you wrote down for it.
Yeah, I mean, I just wrote down everything about it like I always do, so we'd have plenty to talk about.
I mean, that's probably why you went to sleep. You were writing so many notes, you just started falling asleep from how much you were writing.
And that's probably what kept me up on the third go-round, because on the third go-round, I was writing and paying attention, so it was almost like it was test time. Like I was going to have a test on the Batman.
You're just studying the movie.
Studying the movie shot by shot. A lot of people really like the opening, like that. I told you that voyeuristic view. We didn't know if it was Bruce Wayne, know if it was Thomas Wayne. It cuts to the open skylight with a gentleman watching TV. The TV screen kind of fades in and out. And in the light, we see a man. Ooh. In all dark green behind another man. Masked man yells, and then he kills the man. And then he starts to unfold some tape.
It's a start. You don't expect it, I can tell you that.
Then it goes into Gotham. So you're seeing, New York, basically. That's what Gotham is. In most of the comic books. Bruce says it's Thursday, October 31st. So it's a good day to start the Batman on. I mean, he's a mass vigilante. You could dress up on Halloween. Nobody would know you're playing the Batman.
I mean, at this point, he wasn't that popular, so I don't imagine any of the young kids were running around in little Batman costumes. But
probably true. We didn't see any.
We saw a Dewdrop guy.
We did. And he was for the drops that they take in this movie.
I remember seeing
They call them drop heads. So he was actually a drop head.
Oh.
So that's kind of cool. It's crowded city. It's the holiday, he says, even in the rain. He's been watching for 2 years of nights, like we said.
This is his second year Batman. One of my favorite parts of the movie is showing how he's inexperienced. When I'm going to skip a little bit here. I'm sorry, we're trying to go in order. Near middle of the movie, he jumps off a building, Batman, and he tries to glide with this experimental glider. It doesn't look like from the comics. He tries to glide and then he hits the ceiling and he lands on what was it, like a truck or a bus or something?
Yeah, you skipped way ahead. That's after, I think, probably the third killing.
Well, I told you it was.
I know you skipped way. But yeah, it was like he fumbled around. He was getting away from the police.
Yeah.
It wasn't really a parachute. I wrote down parachute, but it wasn't really a parachute. It was more like where those guys are jumping off mountains and they have the suits on and they kind of just glide down.
The wingsuits. Yeah.
Wingsuits without parachuting. But he said he's been watching 2 years of nights. He's turning into a nocturnal animal is what he says.
Yeah, he's emo. I said that.
Yeah, he chooses his targets wisely. And he says, we have a signal now for when I'm needed. What he said.
The signal's not really for him.
True. It says it's not a call, it's a warning for them.
Exactly, because he can't be everywhere at once. But
fear is a tool, he said.
That reminds me of one of the Batman games.
Yeah, he says they think I'm hiding in the shadows, but I am the shadows.
Yeah, he's all emo about it.
Yeah. So then it cuts to the subway, right?
Yeah.
Gang has an inductee. They want him to attack a man.
Is it an inductee? Is he new?
Yeah, he's got half clown makeup on. So he's kind of reminiscent of Two-Face. There's, little things that they throw in here,
I noticed the Two-Face thing. I just didn't know he was like a new guy. I thought he was just scared.
Yeah, he's like an inductee. So they basically had clown makeup on half his face, so kind of reminiscent of Two-Face. But this kid, I think I told you, this kid plays like the actual one of the Robins in the Titans.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty cool addition, especially since we didn't have a Robin.
So I think they're on Jason Todd, but he actually plays Tim Drake. So the gang leader says when now the Batman steps out of the shadows. What the hell are you supposed to be?
It's his Halloween costume for the night.
Yeah, and so Batman, he doesn't say, I'm the Batman.
I'm the night.
He's like, I'm vengeance.
Yeah.
And then he starts brutally fighting ensues. And then I wrote down here in the side of the piece of paper, Robin redeemed. Some people were thinking that kid might turn into Robin. He's already playing a Robin.
I mean, what was the backstory for that?
I don't know, but the Robins, like, not all of them, like, were like Dick Grayson. That was like, in the circus, and his parents died.
Yeah.
I think the other couple were like, kind of like from the streets. This guy was definitely from the streets, and they were trying to get him into this gang, and it looked like Batman was trying to look out for him. So maybe in a later movie, he'll find out who he is and become the Robin.
They did set up for a sequel at the end.
They did.
Year 3.
So then there's a crime scene.
Yeah. There is, I think. I don't know. You could just be lying.
I could. If you haven't seen the Batman, you don't know what I'm talking about. So I could just be making the whole thing up.
It'd be interesting.
One of the police officers, his name is Martinez, questions the police commissioner. I'm sorry, no, lieutenant. He's a lieutenant. Because he's like, why is the Batman here?
Yeah.
Because he's just bringing the Batman into a crime scene. And that's, of course, Gordon. He's Lieutenant Gordon, not Police Commissioner Gordon. And there's a man taped up. What does he have written on his face? Do you remember?
What liar? I don't know.
Close. No more lies. Written across his face. And there were lies on the newspapers that were posted, like in his I guess his house. And there's a card. So we're getting cards.
Yeah, it's a little postcard. Wish you were here.
Yeah, it's Valentine's Day. So Batman's getting a Valentine. I always wanted a Valentine.
You're married.
Well, that's true. But, like in school, if you didn't get a Valentine from somebody, you were like, why didn't I get a Valentine from them?
Yeah, schools mostly force you to give them to everybody else.
Yeah, so Batman's getting a Valentine, and the card says, from your secret friend, who, there's a skeleton and an owl on it, which some people think could be the Court of Owls, kind of maybe in the background in the shadows. Maybe this will be something for a sequel. Who knows?
They're doing a new Batman game that has the Court of Owls as the main villain of that.
That might be coming. So it says, from your secret friend who, having a clue, let's play a game. Just me and you. And it's written, what does a liar do when he's dead? And there's also a cipher, too, from what one of the police officers says.
Yeah.
What does a liar do when he's dead?
Well, first of all, he starts to decompose. There is the rigor mortis stage, of course. So he goes through that. Maybe some like worms maybe get in there. Before
Batman answers, and they never call him the Batman in the movie. I don't think anybody's ever called him the background Batman. I did stay awake on the third viewing, and I had the captions on it, and I don't think they called him the Batman throughout the entire movie. So he hasn't been called the Batman up until this point. He said his name is Vengeance, and that's what they call him throughout the movie, Vengeance. But Pete Savage is the police commissioner, and he questions why the Batman is at the crime scene. The card, like I said, was addressed to the Batman. It's at this point when Pete Mitchell is Maverick, thinking of Top Gun.
It's not even related to this.
I know. Pete Savage talks to Gordon, and they're basically bantering. And that's when the Batman answers the card. He lies still, because he's still, thinking. He's not the greatest detective yet.
He's all right.
He's second year in.
He's like an okay detective. Like, he's probably as good as the other guy that was there.
Yeah, he's just, kind of like, I'm here.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
He's like, I get special privileges because I wear a cape.
And I got a mask.
I'm a rich man.
Maverick actually says to him, Pete Savage says something to him. This is your favorite, night of the year, because it's Halloween.
They're just trying to mock him because nobody respects him at this point.
He's been doing it 2 years. Who cares? He's got a signal.
All cops usually look down on the superheroes, even though I feel like the superhero could probably put them out of business.
They say about the kid. The kid finds him, and then that's when you start hearing, oh, this is bringing up Nirvana.
Yeah, and he's like,
he's got to get my Nirvana on. Got to play something in the way.
He's pulling out the Spotify, getting that good old Walkman out.
Thinking about mom and dad. Oh, man.
Bringing up those past memories, the trauma coming back.
So we find out it's Mayor Mitchell. That's who dies. Batman, Bruce Wayne. He's dressed as Bruce now. He's not dressed as Batman. Rides away on his motorcycle.
One of the Batman movies had a line like that. It was like one of those masquerades in this movie. And not in the Batman, but of course a different movie. Selena Kyle's there, and she asked who Bruce Wayne is dressed up as, and he says, billionaire philanthropist Bruce Wayne.
Reminds me of Iron Man.
Yeah.
He drives all the way to, not the Batcave. He doesn't have a Batcave. It's Wayne Terminal under the subway tunnels.
He has a bat lair.
It's like a layer. And then that's when he takes out that contact lens and puts it in his little, thing to read. And we find out that he's been recording like everything.
He starts like looking
through his eyeball.
Looking at the kid.
Yeah, he brings up the kid. Alfred, shows up talking about his family legacy. And, all the Batmans don't care about the Waynes and their family legacy. They're like, whatever. I'm Batman.
Yeah.
I'm the Knight. I've been doing this 2 years. I'm vengeance.
I mean, he's getting pretty good at it, I would say. I like that you can see his mediocrity throughout the movie still. It's probably one of my favorite parts of the movie, showing that it's not as professional as he usually is when he's like in the Justice League with all the other guys.
Yeah, like he's a know-it-all, like he's, second in command next to Superman.
Yeah.
Here he's probably like twins. Form of a glass of water. Shape of.
Such a random, those are two random people to just bring up now.
Dolphin.
Really?
Yeah. They were going to do a movie on them, but they just canceled that for HBO Max.
Do enough people know about them?
I guess so. The Wonder Twins, they were big when we used to watch the, back in the day when we watched the Justice League.
That surprises me.
Yeah. I wanted to see them turn into water, and it was one was always some kind of liquid, and the other one was always some kind of animal, and they were always purple.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on the TV, it talks about 20 years ago, Wayne, political figure, was slain, and Alfred notices the mayor's son and also the cipher, and he tells Batman, "You need a shower."
Because he does.
So then Alfred starts working on the cipher because that's what Alfred does.
Alfred's the best.
He does all of Batman's work.
He's always like
he's his butler.
Of course.
Picks up the pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Like all Batman does is go out and stomps on people and comes back and complains, and then Alfred picks up the pieces and he's going through the cipher. He's probably trying to teach him how to be a world's greatest detective.
Yeah, and then all Brucey walks into frame.
Then they figure out the cipher together. So it actually says it's not for what they thought it was for. Basically, they did all the numbers and it showed drive.
What I like in that scene is something that I saw pointed out in a video where the actor for Batman, he walks out into a light and then he like winces like it's too bright because he's used to being out at night.
Out at night, yeah. So Gordon and the Batman check out the mayor's cars and they're looking for the Wright car. Of course, they found it because the Riddler basically slashes the tire with an instrument. So then they're looking for a USB. Gordon's like, "Why are we looking for a USB?" Like he's trained to be the Batman. He's got a deep voice too.
That's how he said it. Did he say it like that?
Something like that. He's like, "Why are we looking for a USB part?"
Mm-hmm.
They pull it out. It's a thumb attached to the USB.
A thumb from the guy killed at the beginning.
From the mayor. And what they find is pictures with a woman and the mayor and Penguin at the Iceberg Lounge.
Yeah, and then the old Batman, he gets on his motorcycle, puts in the Walkman, turns on some Nirvana, drives on over.
He basically knocks on the door and he's like,
"I'm Batman. Let me in."
"I'm Batman."
He doesn't actually say that. You said earlier he doesn't say it.
He doesn't say that. He never said, and they're like, "Oh," and then he's beating his way basically, to see the Penguin all the way around the club, finds the Penguin. Penguin's like, "How you doing?" I mean, all of a sudden it's like friends, I'm Oz, what his name is.
Brings him up into the little
Central Perk
office.
Yeah, they go to Central Perk.
Yeah.
And the Penguin doesn't know her, he says. And there's a woman that brings drinks. She looks at the pictures for like a long time, so she knows something.
She's kind of eyeing him up, and then she looks at old Batman, the old Vengeance, and Oz is like, "Hey, it's all right. It's all right."
And finally, after about 10 minutes, Batman notices that she's looking at him for like the long time in the pictures.
Yeah.
Takes him a long time to figure that out. He doesn't notice it because they kind of get into a tuffle there, him and the Penguin. But it's the same boots in the pics. And so then Batman follows the waitress.
Yeah.
And that's when you see binoculars again. So it kind of almost parallels the very beginning of the movie. But this time it's the Batman and he's spying on this waitress, who they never say is the Catwoman in the movie either.
If they didn't name it the Batman, I feel like this just could have been any ordinary movie.
Exactly. I mean, you do get the Penguin. They do call him the Penguin, but at first he's Oz. She's basically staring at the woman in the photos. She's changing clothes. She's completely shaken up. The lady that's in the photos is there at her apartment.
Yeah.
She changes clothes around Cats in the Closet, which reminds me of a scene from Batman Returns with Michelle Pfeiffer as the Catwoman, because I think she does almost the same kind of thing. And she takes off on a motorcycle, and Batman's, all right, I got a friend.
He's like, oh, another motorcycle.
Oh, a motorcycle. We can start a club.
And so he gets on his motorcycle and tries to follow her. He's like, hey, do you also listen to Nirvana?
Yeah, and so they make some cuts, Vengeance and Waitress, because they never, give her a name. I mean, they do call her Selena, I think, eventually, but
yeah.
So, I guess it's Vengeance and Selena together forever on their cuts.
Yeah.
And they go back to the crime scene. So it's basically the waitress cracking the mayor's safe. She's dressed as a cat burglar. And that's where Catwoman comes from. Yeah. He does call her cat burglar at one point. Not here. Then she fights the Batman. You always got to love it when, not saying anything against women, because women, can beat some ass too, but her trying to fight the Batman, it's just, kind of hilarious. If there's one thing he knows, it's fighting.
I mean, but in this movie, even in this movie, you can see him get hit a couple times, which if he was the greatest detective, he wouldn't let happen.
He should have been using the Force and know when those things are coming.
Yeah, he should have dodged it and then grabbed their, it's the
stop messing with me, smashing my pretty face.
Exactly.
She has a passport for Kozlov Annika. So the cops show up because they're making a bunch of ruckus. I mean, they're fighting in the old mayor's home where they just found him dead. Whoever, not even. It
was like one security guard. It's not heavily guarded.
Yeah, but still, and he comes up there, shining the light. But you made a good observation at this point. You said, why didn't they find...
He walks in the room with the open safe and, does his little thing with the flashlight. He doesn't even... he barely enters the room. And he should notice that the safe is open, but he just doesn't. And then he walks away. Yeah, so he takes off, and then they take off on the motorcycles because they want to talk to the girl. Yeah. So when they get back to the waitress's apartment, basically Catwoman's apartment, Annie's gone. Place is ransacked. The TV news is now talking about the second victim, Commissioner Pete Mitchell, can't be in another sequel. Maverick's going to be dead, killed by the Riddler. Did they even call him the Riddler in the entire movie?
They did. They actually did call him the Riddler. They didn't call Batman, and they didn't call Catwoman, but they did call Penguin, the Penguin, and Riddler, the Riddler. But, I mean, I think when Matt Reeves was interviewed, he said it's more from the point of view, and not really the point of view, but about the villains. Yeah. You could see where that would be something. They showed the Riddler, and I wrote down, I put in parentheses what he said. Truth will finally be unmasked, which I thought was good. Man, he kept saying unmasked. He kept saying that it was going to be unmasked. All this was going to be unmasked. Instead of unfolded or found out or whatever, unmasked is what he used a lot when Riddler was talking about that kind of stuff. Yeah. So the waitress said she saw him at the club as well. And that club was the club within the club.
Yeah, the club within the club.
Yeah, so it wasn't the Iceberg Lounge. It was 44 below. It was the mob hangout. And Batman's like, you're going to help me on this. So he leans on the waitress.
Because she's the only one who can get in there. Because he just fought through all the security.
Yeah, I mean, he could go back, but he wants, I guess, now to send her an operative in there. I guess maybe he's got to get his bruises healed up a little bit.
He's got to put on his eye makeup before he can get in there.
Maybe listen to some more Nirvana. So they're at the morgue, and Gordon the Batman. Gordon's like, it's rat poisoning. Trying to do the Batman. I don't know why. There was a maze. They had found symbols from the cipher at the other place. There was more pictures with Drophead Dealer and another card to the Batman. And it says, I'm mad about you. Want to know my name? Just look inside and see. And on the cover, it's a mad scientist on the card with chemicals. But wait, I cannot tell you. It might spoil the chemistry. And then it says written, follow the maze until you find me. The rat, bring him into the light and you will find where I'm at. Translates to, from what they found for the code, is you are El Rata Alata, a rat with wings, a stool pigeon.
It's interesting to see how this Riddler makes his associations and his riddles in this movie, because he just seems like, when you actually see him without his mask on, he just seems like some average guy.
He's like the biggest dork ever.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's gonna try to kill it. It looks like he's gonna try to sell you something.
I mean, he almost looks like the Apple's, CEO. Yeah. Not really, but it looks like he could be selling Apple products.
Like Steve Jobs.
Yeah, want to buy a computer? But, I mean, he would do it in riddles, and that would make it fun for everybody. Use your Apple product to get my riddle.
That's his big pitch.
I don't know. I mean,
he would tell a riddle and be like, use your Apple computer.
Use your Apple device and figure it out, and you can win the brand new Riddler phone.
Riddler phone.
14.0.
What does that mean?
I don't know. That's when he turns over the contact lens to the waitress. She goes into 44 Below, the mob club, and he is basically IDing everybody, but he wants her to look at them for the longest time. And the DEA is there, and everybody from the DA's office is there.
Yeah, and it's like revealed that they're all bad people.
So not only, you got the mayor that was killed, you got the police commissioner, now you got the DA, all these people in basically the higher up of the city. It's at this point that Selena, she could have saved the DA. The DA asked if she wants a ride home, or she could have been killed. But she gets a taxi instead, and the DA goes off to his car, and the Riddler's waiting in his car, pulls out the tape, puts a collar on him. And they're talking about basically, the rat that they're looking for. And then the next thing that you see is the funeral, and there's a protest at the funeral. People are saying, no more lies. So this thing is catching that everybody's talking about.
Yeah, he's like making a difference now.
Yeah.
The Riddler, he's gaining followers. People are supporting his master riddles.
They're loving the riddles. I'm telling you, he sells some Apple products.
Yeah, and they'll be chanting the 14.0.
No more lies. So Bruce sees the bad guy, the mob guy, Falcone, the penguin, and what he thinks is the waitress because it looks like, same girl wearing the boots. He basically tells a story. He's like, man, you got the prince of the city right here. His father saved my life. There was a bullet in my chest. The kid saw the whole thing. It went over, I guess. Thomas Wayne took the bullet out.
I mean, sounds like he's a good guy. I get where Bruce gets it from now.
Since the mayor was killed, you only have one person running for mayor, so she's going to win. So she's basically the mayor, but still got to do a vote. And she's asking for Bruce to do some more philanthropy, like, why has you called him? And you could be doing more for the city. And she doesn't realize he's, the Batman. He's doing stuff for the city, just behind the scenes.
He's been trying his best at night, being vengeance.
Yeah, he's like, I'm cleaning up the city. Gordon says that Gil Coulson is missing, and then Bruce sees the Riddler. And then you hear all this commotion going on. A car crashes into the church, and it's basically Coulson with that bomb around his neck, phone taped to him, and it's ringing. But he has a tape over his mouth that says, what do you think it says?
No more lies.
No more lies. That's right.
He's so original.
I mean, he just keeps using the same thing over and over. He wants to, reinforce that. So when you buy the new Riddler phone 14.0, you'll,
Is there a built-in lie detector?
Could be something in there that you put no more lies in. You get, like a free year or something. I don't know.
Oh, like a promo code.
Yeah, like a promo code. Maybe that's the hashtag or something.
Like a free warranty.
So there's another card to the Batman on his chest. Batman shows up with the bomb robot. The card says, these trying times, never forget, I'm just a phone call away. And he's basically telling him to answer the phone. On the card, there's a blonde with the telephone receiver. And he gives him 3 riddles. Try to get out of it.
And of course, Batman, he's not the world's greatest detective at this point. So we're all like, oh no.
Yeah, 2 minutes. 3 riddles in 2 minutes. It's not going to happen.
I wouldn't be able to do that.
It's not going to happen. Basically, the first one is, it can be cruel, poetic, or blind, but when it's denied, it's violence you may find.
Is that your impression of the Riddler?
That's my impression. Was it good?
I don't know.
It probably sucked. And Batman's like, justice.
I am justice.
The DA's like, I don't know. He's just all whining.
I am vengeance. I'm the night.
The second one, so they got that one right.
I'm Gotham's reckoning.
If you are justice, please do not lie. What is the price for your blind eye?
It's funny every time you say it like that.
It's bribes.
Bribes.
And then the last one is, since you justice is so select, please tell us which vermin you're paid to protect. I don't think I did that one as good.
No, you definitely weakened on the third, but the first 2 are pretty good.
And he's talking about the rat, basically. El Rato, which comes into play later on. He doesn't get it. He blows up. He blows up the Batman. Batman is then surrounded by police and they're trying to take his mask off, and he wakes up and he starts punching the police and everything. And Gordon is like, oh crap, I got to get him out of this one. Am I going to get him out of this one? Deep voice is not working here. And this is when you talked about earlier. You fast forward with the parachute.
Yeah, because they're trying to chase after him, but he's the Batman. You can't catch Batman. He's the gingerbread man.
So he gets out of there, flies through the air. What is it? Hits the bridge and everything.
Bridge overpass.
So Gordon meets up with him to discuss the rat. They kind of figure out that the cops worked at the club, that it could be Penguin, so they follow the Penguin. It looks like Penguin has taken over Maroni's lab operation. Maroni was Falcone's, basically. If Maroni was Lowe's, then Falcone was Home Depot.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah. So they had an operation of drug labs, and a motorcycle shows up. So it's basically the waitress. She discovers the money and also Ani in the truck. And then the shootout ensues. The waitress and Batman and Penguin and Gordon. And then all of a sudden you hear, I mean, it's real loud.
Your impressions are just
it's spot on today. I know. Don't be scared.
What would I be scared?
I don't know. Don't be scared. But I mean, because it was like Alfred got him the superpowers in the Batmobile, and it's like a old Charger, old sports car.
Yeah.
The waitress steals the money.
It's not all armored up yet.
That's not all armored up. It's a little bit armored up. And so there's a penguin chase. They get the penguin, and they figured out what El Rata El Lata means, because Penguin's like, you guys are stupid. You don't know it's what Spanish is? It's La Rata El Lata.
Yeah.
So then Batman figures out, you are El. A rat with wings. You are El Rata El Lata. You are El. So then he types in Rata El Lata in the computer and comes across the penguin. He talks about his next victim. He says, I grew up from a seed, tough as weed, but in a mansion or in a slum, I'll never know where I come from. Do you know what I am?
You didn't do the impression.
Well, he was on the computer screen. Should I do the impression?
He's like,
I grew up from a seed, tough as a weed, but in a mansion in a slum, I'll never know where I come from. Do you know what I am?
I feel like you're Jim Carrey.
Well, he was the Riddler.
Yeah, I know.
And then Batman's like, an orphan, because after 10 minutes.
After 10 minutes.
So they go to Wayne Manor, where it all began. The Gotham Renewal Fund. Renewal is a lie. Sins of my father on the wall. The next victim is Bruce Wayne. Alfred's like, they show Alfred. He's like doing his stuff, and he sees a pack. I mean, Alfred's smart. Like, he sees a package. It's addressed to Bruce Wayne.
He's like, oh, I gotta check it now.
I gotta check it. He opens it up, and then it says, there's another card. It says to the Batman, but it says fireproof. I mean, that should be a
clear warning.
Clear warning right there.
He should have gotten out of there immediately.
Alfred blows up. He's dead.
That was so quick.
No, he wasn't dead. He's in the hospital. But
just accepted it so quickly.
I know. Well, I mean,
he's dead now.
He dies in a lot of the comics, so it's not like it's a unforeseen thing. And the card, it's eyes, and it says "See you in hell." Selina asks where he is. He's down in the basement. She's still got his contact. Well, not in the terminal or whatever. He says to her at the bat signal, Cat Burger looking for another score. And Selina says she wants to go after Kinsey, which is the cop that she thinks killed Ani. She reveals, you know what she reveals?
No.
Not that she's a Catwoman. She reveals Falcone is Selina's father.
Oh, yeah. I remember that now.
And her mother worked at the 44 Below. She was murdered when Selina was about 7.
About 7.
At something. She might have said at 7 or about 7. I can't remember. And then Wayne and the Arkhams, The Legacy of Lies, murder. Martha Wayne's mother killed her father, then killed herself, and then the Arkhams covered it up. And then Martha was in and out of institutions. So we find out Batman, didn't realize, but he has some lies.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of his family, so it got passed down to him.
So he goes, the only one that could probably answer the questions. He goes to the 44 Below to Falcone, but he's not dressed as the Batman. He's dressed as Bruce Wayne.
Billionaire philanthropist Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. And he said, your father and me wanted to handle it, so I did. Basically talking about killing the guy, because I guess this guy had dirt on the family, this reporter. He killed the guy.
Yeah.
He comes to the conclusion, Bruce Wayne does, that Maroni got his father killed. Alfred wakes up. Bruce says, you lied to me my whole life. Falcone killed my parents. Like any good mentor, like Obi-Wan to Anakin, he basically helps him see it another way, that it wasn't Maroni that killed his parents. It was Falcone that killed his parents.
Yeah. Big surprise.
Surprise. So Falcone is behind everything. At the bat signal, he says a falcon has wings too. So they figure out the stool pigeon could be Falcone. He killed Ani. The renewal fund, they find out it's a huge charitable fund with no oversight. Everybody got a piece of it. Falcone's been the mayor for the last 20 years, basically. And he was the rat, and everybody else was his puppets. So Selina goes to the club to kill Falcone. Batman cuts the power at the club. Gunfight hallway scene, which is really cool.
Always.
We've seen a lot of those type of hallway scenes, so that was really cool seeing that. Falcone knocks out Selina. They start choking her. Batman takes Falcone to Gordon. Falcone into the light. And then the Riddler kills Falcone.
Yeah, no, Batman's an accomplice.
And it could have probably ended there.
I feel like it was going to end there.
I thought it was going to end there, too, because it was like everything was kind of sewed up. Or so you thought. Where's the Riddler?
I mean, they're just about to get him.
What's the Riddler doing? And now they have him because he just basically shot him. They find his room. They lock him up in Arkham. They find another card. It's in a bat cage, which I thought was pretty cool. There's a bat in a cage.
And Batman just like, oh, hey, what's up, bro? He like fist bumps him and grabs the card from under him.
He's like, thanks for keeping my card, sweet man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm going to get my Riddler 14.0.
14.0.
On the card, it says, just for you, there's an organ grinder. You know what an organ grinder is, don't you?
Yeah, grinds the organ.
It's a person with an organ grinder and a monkey. And it says, basically, my confession. It's with the murder weapon.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And that's not where it ends. It keeps going. So there's basically, they say the Riddler's asking for you. So he goes to Arkham and talks to him. And there's this sweet scene between him and the Riddler where they kiss and they make up. And
of course, and then the movie ends there.
No, it doesn't end there. It's still going on. Then they get into a fight. They break up because he keeps going, Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Come to find out, the police guy comes in because he's the world's greatest detective.
Yeah.
The whole time he's like, the murder weapon's it's a tucker. A tucker? Yeah, when you got my brother-in-law does carpet, you use this to tuck the carpet in.
Tuck it under the carpet.
I mean, the whole time. A police officer, give him the bat suit.
I mean, if he can't figure that out, how is he expected to get to year 3?
I don't even know. So they pull the carpet up. There's a map of Gotham. And then he finds, the last thing that Riddler talks about. Riddler has other Riddlers, which we've seen in the comics before.
The Riddlings.
The Riddlings. Yeah, I like that. The Riddlings. 7 vans blow up. All the water comes in. It's a big flood. Is it Riddlerettes? What'd you call them?
I said it too. It was not.
That's 2 seconds ago. Was it
I said
the Riddler minions? What were they called?
I said Riddlings.
Riddlings.
But we could just call them the puzzles.
Yeah, the Puzzlers.
Puzzlers, yeah.
Riddler Juniors. They had guns. They were waiting. They were going to shoot everybody in basically Madison Square Garden. Everything's flooding. I put on here, because it was too much left. It was like, the Batman takes on the Riddlers. Selina saves the Batman. Batman saves Selina with Venom.
Yeah.
Gordon saves Batman. Batman saves everybody.
Of course.
That's the end.
Yeah, the end. That's the whole movie.
Well, except there was a little scene with Riddler and the Joker.
The Joker.
In Arkham. There's a Joker that's been locked up. And then there was a, scene with Catwoman, Selina, and Batman. She's going to Bloodhaven. Nightwing.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a Nightwing.
I don't think there'd be a Nightwing yet.
Well, there's not even a Robin,
yeah,
as far as we know.
I like this scene with Riddler and Joker there because it's really weirdly done, but I find it funny still. And I like how Joker tells him a riddle, and it's like about a friend, like what means more the less you have or something.
Yeah, I don't know if I wrote that one down, but yeah, exactly. He was basically giving him a riddle, like And
they laugh together in those like conjoining cells, kind of.
It would have been good if they had some hand, kind of thing. That would have been good. They didn't really show the Joker too much, just for a few minutes. But there was a cutscene with the Joker that they put online later on, and there's been other stuff from the movie. So what did you think? What did you think about the Batman?
Very long.
Very long. We could have, and I think I've said this before, and I might have said it to you. Hollywood needs to get more editors.
Yeah, I feel like that could have been a lot shorter.
Yeah.
Or maybe even like a 2-parter.
It could have been a 2-parter. Probably could have been a 2-parter.
Maybe even like a show.
It could have been a 14-hour show on Netflix or HBO Max or something.
I mean, I'm watching Bad Boys on Amazon Prime right now, and each of those is like an hour. So
not the Bad Boys. You're talking about the Boys.
The Boys.
Yeah, the Boys.
I keep saying Bad Boys.
I know you keep messing that title up.
Well,
it's
you
all
messed
good.
up a lot of titles.
I always mess up everything. It's a good movie. I kind of like the emo Batman. Kind of like the idea of some of the things he did. I really like the contact lens. I really like the the fight scene in the hallway. Catwoman was decent. She was pretty cute. Riddler was good. He wasn't like he was kind of like really like a criminal type character. And he even kept his own. He even said, "I'm not the rat." Basically at the end he said, "Falcone, you're the rat."
Yeah.
He was calling him out. So it was all in all, it was pretty good. I mean, I think my favorite is The Dark Knight. That's probably one of my favorites. I like the second trilogy better than I do like all the other films.
Yeah. I think a lot of the Batman movies are really good, and I like a lot of the actors for them too.
Yeah, the first series I don't really like. A lot of people are going to disagree with me. Michael Keaton as the Batman.
Yeah.
I thought Val Kilmer was a better Batman. A lot of people disagree, but I think he got the Batman and Bruce Wayne, which, I mean, Batman doesn't need a lot, really. Bruce Wayne is more, but in these later stages, they seem like they do less of Bruce Wayne and more of the Batman.
Yeah.
It's not a terrible film. What would you give it?
What, like a ranking system?
Yeah, what would you give it out of 14 Riddlers?
Out of 14, out of like
14.0. What cell phone would he get?
Oh, like, okay. I don't know. Maybe like I'd say probably like a solid 8, 7 maybe.
That's what I was thinking about, 7 or 8. That's what I was thinking.
7.5.
Yeah, so you'd have a pretty old cell phone, which would probably match his detective.
I mean, I'd say it's just a pretty young phone. He's not perfect yet. He's still learning how to be the world's greatest phone.
And we'll have to see where it goes. There's talk of them doing a series on HBO Max.
I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be centered around. Well, I heard they were doing one about Gotham, and then I think they renegotiated that, and they're doing maybe one like Riddler earlier years or something. I don't know.
Strange.
But I'm not sure exactly what they're doing. But look for that soon.
Yeah.
All right, so Star Wars.
Did you want to play your little sound first?
You want me to do the sound?
That's why we paid for him.
All right, let's do it.
You are watching TV on the Hero Chat Show.
Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan McGregor.
It's old Ben Kenobi. Lived out by the Dune Sea. Obi-Wan Kenobi. That is not a name I've heard for a very long time. The air date on Obi-Wan started May 27th, 2022. We got 2 episodes, goes through June 22, 2022. Wednesdays on Disney+. Stars Ewan McGregor. Again, nephew of Dennis Larson, who was the Star Wars Red 2, Wedge Antilles, or Rogue 3 from Rogue Squadron. Did you know that?
I think you've told me before.
As old Ben Kenobi or Obi-Wan Kenobi, or just Ben.
Obi-Wan McGregor. There's a thing there.
Moses Ingram plays Inquisitor Reva.
Yeah.
Or the third sister.
Third.
Rupert Friend plays the Grand Inquisitor. Soon Kang from Too Fast, Too Furious movies as the 5th brother.
Do you mean like from Too Fast, Too Furious?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was in Tokyo Drift and some of the other movies. Raya Killstep as the 4th sister. Which they never say she's the 4th sister, but in IMDb it says 4th sister.
I think they said it at least once, probably, somewhere.
Hayden Christensen and James Earl Jones and about 3 other people play Darth Vader.
I mean, Hayden Christensen makes sense because it's blanking on name.
Of course, we're going to get into spoilers probably right away because James Earl Jones, but some people say that they put his voice into the same scrambler that they did Luke's with all of the James Earl Jones stuff that they have. I mean, even read the Bible at one point and made the voice. And James Earl Jones didn't actually do the voice.
That'd be strange.
At the very end of the episode, it shows like whatever the sound thing is. I can't think of what it's called, but yeah. So I saw a video on that.
That's interesting.
Well, the whole series, it says Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi watches over young Luke Skywalker and evades the Empire's elite Jedi hunting during his exile on the desert planet of Tatooine.
I wouldn't really say that he watches over him the entire time. I feel like some other stuff has happened.
Everybody's like so pissed off at Disney recently. It's just, people are talking about the new hotel, the Star Wars hotel. They're all pissed off about it. It's $12,000 to go there for a night or whatever. I mean, if you don't want to go, don't go. They're all mad about Obi-Wan Kenobi. They were mad about Book of Boba Fett. I mean, well, the Book of Boba Fett was deserved a little bit, I guess. They're mad at Obi-Wan Kenobi. They're saying that Obi-Wan Kenobi is just a riff on Jedi Fallen Order.
I don't think so.
Which we'll go into. I mean, we're going to talk about that too. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would have thought, if you would have tagged me and asked me about it, I would have been like, yeah, I would think he would have just looked at Luke all those years and watched over Luke. Never really occurred to me he might have a job, might be earning some credits, while he was doing that. I just thought he was an old hermit. That's what Owen calls him. That old hermit living on the hill.
I thought the entire time, like, he was just watching over Luke and just, like, planning out what he would say when Luke was finally ready to meet him. He'd be like, it would be good if I said, like, I haven't heard that name in a long time. Yeah, that'd be good. I'll write that down. Hold on.
Yeah, so he was trying to get the right words, and he had plenty of time to practice, what we thought. I mean, he didn't, because he was doing some stuff in this particular series. But, maybe he wanted to tell Luke about the birds and the bees. I mean, who knows? There could have been some discussions.
And like you said about the job, we never thought about him earning credits, but with how much he does, we were talking about this the other day, with how much he's been doing, is he fired from that job? Like,
I don't know what he's doing. And he was stealing from the job, too, to start off with.
So it's like he just went off planet. Like, does that kind
just
of
left
day?
I don't know. I don't know if he took vacation. I don't know if they have vacation from, his job, but we'll see when he gets back. They're real original on the titles of these episodes. Part one. Part one.
It honestly goes, this is my favorite titles. It goes part one and then pilot. Those are my favorite,
so part one.
Yeah.
When agents of the Empire pose a new threat, Obi-Wan Kenobi emerges after years of hiding.
Not hiding very well.
I know. So the first episode we get a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It's a recap of the prequel trilogy. Can't say that three times fast. Prequel trilogy.
Why did you have so much trouble with
I don't know. I practiced that. I was in my hut thinking about how I would say prequel.
Your Jabba the Hutt?
First, the perspective of Obi-Wan, and then second from the perspective of Anakin. So we see the background of all them throughout the, how do you call it?
What?
Prequel trilogy.
Prequel.
Thank you. I said it.
Yeah, all right.
All by myself.
I'm proud of you. I mean, it's a big leap for you to be able to say that on your own.
Yeah, so they show the Jedi Temple and 5 younglings practicing right before Order 28.
Close.
Order 47.
No, further.
Order 22 and a half.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Order 66.
In the Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, he actually messes it up, and he says Order 67, and then he's like, no, that's not it. And then he goes into a little book, and it's Star Wars Manual for Clones,
and it's all the orders.
Yeah, and it looks like a Lego book kind of. He's went through, and then he goes back, and he's like, execute Order 66.
Yeah, I liked your rendition there. It was good. Do it again.
What, me?
Yeah, just say it again.
Execute Order 66.
I like it.
Thank you. I practice every night.
The Jedi's name was Velti, Velti.
Velti.
That was the one basically protecting the younglings. And then it shows 10 years later on Tatooine, a spaceship flies overhead and we get the Inquisitors.
I like the concept of the Inquisitors because most of them, at least, were Jedi younglings that were taken and turned into a bad guy that now hunts Jedi. And it's so interesting because, they hunt Jedi, and you'd think after Order 66 that they would mostly be killed, but we just keep learning that more and more.
We talked about this. There's so many. What did you say? There was 20 of them or something, or 12 or 16? There was
I watched this video, and it showed there was 8 of them, kind of.
Yeah.
And every time I see a show or media that says another person survived, and it's it's getting so far away. I
swear,
from that
they keep
small
getting
number.
So many people. It's just how many Jedi were out there? I mean, when we were growing up, it was Luke, it was Leia, it was Obi-Wan, and it was Yoda. But we didn't know about Yoda for the longest time. So basically, it was just Obi-Wan and Luke.
Yeah, I mean, that's
all we knew.
Guess.
And Anakin, I mean, of course, but he's no longer really a Jedi. So there was 2. And now there's every time you turn around, there's another Jedi. It's wait a minute, I thought we only had a few.
And then you think about the clones that survived it as well, and didn't turn because they're chips, and then you get into even more numbers because of the Bad Batch, and then Rex, and it's a
so
whole
many
thing.
clones, all these people. There's just in hiding. I mean, you can just hide in these galaxies and all these planets. Nobody's looking, I guess. But it's the Grand Inquisitor, the third sister Reva, the 7th brother. They interrogate the locals at a saloon looking for a Jedi.
One line that I had heard before watching the show was something that happened in that scene, and he said their compassion leaves a trail. He says it all menacing,
itch they must scratch.
Yeah, it's a whole thing because it's I like seeing how they're hunting, because you don't really see that side of the bad guys, of how they're gonna hunt the Jedi. And because Jedi are supposed to be very tactical, and they have the Force, so they'll basically kind of have a sense for what's going on. It would be kind of hard to be hunted, but it's using their compassion, and they're helping to find where they are.
The Jedi that they find in this saloon, basically it's Reva who finds him because she's just had enough with the Grand Inquisitor and all his talk, and so she throws a knife. Nari saves the saloon keeper, but then he kind of evades them.
Yeah.
And I like what the Grand Inquisitor says to Reva. He says, "You are reckless." And then she's like, "Well, why are we chasing after scraps?" Grand Inquisitor's like, "Because scraps are all we have left."
I like the implications behind that.
But of course, we know. I mean, they're not watching the same YouTube videos that we're watching. If they just watch some of the YouTube videos, they'd be like, there's 25 right there you could go after.
It said in this YouTube, I just looked it up on YouTube. It says like there's like a couple of them. Like this, Yoda's on Dagobah. We can just go to Dagobah. I mean, he's probably right there.
They need to go to the computer system and look it up. But Reva, according to the Grand Inquisitor, has a fixation with Kenobi. I wonder what that's all about.
And it's all mysterious, and we're like, oh, I guess she just hates him or something.
Kenobi's working on the site of a dead sea animal. Now, we learned from Book of Boba Fett that Tatooine used to be covered by water.
Yeah, so it could be like a whale.
Somebody said it could be one of those whales that went off with, what was his name? Ezra, yeah.
That would be interesting.
I'm not sure if it is. What kind of whales were they? I don't remember what they were called.
Space whales.
That's probably not it, but
hey,
close enough. So he's working on the site. He's carving up meat. He carves up extra to take with him. And we find out that the extra meat is for, you remember?
It's for his caged rancor.
No, he has one of those little Eopies.
Eopies.
And it's for him. He's living in a cave. He's not his hermit living in a thing up on the hill talking about most likely spaceport.
I mean, I want to know if like he goes back after all of the events that happen in this show and just like works real hard at his meat company job, and then he like gets some bonuses, maybe gets a couple of raises, maybe even a promotion or two. Finally gets enough for that old hut up on the hill.
That's what he is thinking about, retirement. That old hut on the hill.
He's like thinking about his 401k.
So he meets a Jawa named Tika, and he's trying to buy a toy for Luke.
Well, he doesn't meet them. We meet them. He's known them for a while, apparently.
Yeah, Tika comes in his place. Also, Tika shows him a Jedi belt that he found in the desert, and he talks about the Inquisitors.
Yeah, talks about a crash site or something.
And I thought it was funny, too, like all of a sudden you hear like Obi-Wan's like compressor kind of spew out or something, and it's like, Tika's like, I got some parts for that. He had stole Obi-Wan's parts, and Obi-Wan was like, you could at least give them back to me clean.
Yeah.
He's like, cleaning costs extra.
If you're going to steal my parts, you can at least clean them.
He's like, told him cleaning costs extra, so he did steal the parts. So that was pretty funny. Obi-Wan wakes up from nightmares. I mean, who would not have nightmares? You're sleeping on a freaking rock. Like, I mean, did he even have a bed? I think he's sleeping on the floor. He needs his hut. The poor guy.
He's not making the best credits at his meat job. That's why he has to sneak a little bit of meat when he goes on.
Surprised he doesn't sell it somewhere.
I mean, sell it on the black market. I'm sure you'll find something.
He's having nightmares of Qui-Gon, Padme, Anakin. So then, he wakes up early. He's like an old man. He's like, well, I'm up. Might as well cut the grass.
Might as well get the day going.
Yeah, there's no grass to cut on Tatooine. So he journeys to Luke by his Eope.
He gets that little Zen garden forks and like just goes over the sand.
Just goes over and sees. Let's go visit Luke. Looks like a pretty far away, but he does. Before we get into that, he does wake up asking for Qui-Gon.
Yeah, he's like trying to get his Force ghost to appear.
So they're at the Lars homestead, or he's basically across from it, hiding in another cave. I mean, he's just a cave dweller. He's making some paintings and
he's looking through his macro binoculars.
I'm sure, if they ever do the Dr. Alpha show, it would be intriguing if they go back to Tatooine. I'm sure there's cave paintings of Obi-Wan's journey.
Yeah, he's probably made by the Tusken Raiders.
He's probably had a little Tusken Raiders, a little Jawa there, and he put Tika on there and a little spaceship and stuff.
It's showing like how he looks all scary because he can make the noise of the crate dragon.
And then he shows his little sea monster that he's getting his meat from.
I would like to see how he learned to make the noise of the crate dragon.
That would be cool. If they tell you how to do that. Maybe Qui-Gon told him.
Yeah.
Luke gets out of helping Uncle Owen, which is classic Luke. Sneaks off, and they're like, Luke. Oh, they're always yelling after Luke.
And every single one.
The Lars homestead is so vast, and they're like, Luke. It did say, as far as with the captions, that Aunt Beru was there, even though you didn't really. I think you maybe saw her for a second, but because you saw,
You saw her like silhouette, kind of
something like that. But she was there. Obi-Wan goes in by night. He leaves the toy for Luke, and then as he's going back, it's pinging in the desert. Sand's falling down.
Yeah.
Nari finds Obi-Wan on the way back. That's who it is, to his cave. Nuri says to Obi-Wan, what about the fight? Obi-Wan says, the fight is done. We lost. And Nuri's like, what happened to you? You were once a great Jedi. And then Obi-Wan says, the time of the Jedi is over.
which has been said before, I think.
Yeah, it's just sad.
I mean, but he's trying to protect himself and in turn help Luke as well.
Yeah, and you could tell it, he's scared, he doesn't know what to do, which is fine. Definitely somebody that needs his help. I mean, but if he risks exposure, I mean, you get it. You understand. But still, it's just sad. So then we go to Alderaan, which we've never seen Alderaan before.
It looks all futuristic, even though it's a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
They're dressing Leia. Mom comes in to get her. Well, it's not really her real mom. Rita, Breha, Reha. But it's not Leia. Leia's in the woods with Lola, her little spaceship, and she's exploring.
Not a spaceship.
She's exploring spaceships. Maybe I said it wrong. She's with Lola, her robot, exploring spaceships.
Sitting in a tree, looking at the spaceships go by.
There you go. So I thought it was funny. They find out where she's at. Breha takes Lola. And then Leah's all like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. Blah, blah, blah. Let me give you a hug.
Yeah, and then she takes it back.
She takes Lola back. She's a sneaky one, that one.
I mean, yeah, you've probably seen the original trilogy.
Oh, there's more of Leah?
I mean, if you want to see.
I didn't realize. She's, really sneaky and plays on people's emotions, which is probably through the Force, and she just doesn't realize it.
Yeah.
It's the third time we're back at the workshop with Obi-Wan where he's carving up another extra slice of meat.
You're thinking at this point, it's like they're showing it again. It's got to be something important. Like
I was thinking that they were gonna lock him up. I mean, here he is stealing meat. They should find him, but they didn't. Owen, when he gets back to his EOP, Owen found the toy, throws the toy at Obi-Wan. He says, "Stay away from him." And then we get the famous meme that we've gotten all over Facebook. How are you gonna train him? You couldn't even train Anakin.
Yeah.
They're showing the angry Uncle Owen to everyone. It's like the biggest meme now. And then the fifth brother, the third sister show up and they interrogate the locals, including Obi-Wan.
What do you mean including Obi-Wan?
Well, I'm sorry, including Owen, not
Owen,
Obi-Wan. Yeah, so they and think she's going to do something wrong to Owen. She doesn't.
But she's like threatening him and his family. But he didn't give up the location of Obi-Wan, who was just 20 feet away.
Yeah.
Just out of reach.
You go back to Alderaan and Breha, Bail, and Leah at a party for Breha's family. Leah basically is talking to her cousin. Her cousin's really mean to her and says, why are you even nice to a droid? And she's like, because, you should be. And he's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. He's like, well, I'm nice to you.
Yeah.
He's making puns on him. That was pretty funny. She gets in trouble and they're back in her room telling her she needs to apologize. And she's like, all right. And then she's like, I'm out of here. Needles shows up from Back to the Future.
That's him.
Flea takes her.
Yeah.
Or you see him. No, I don't think it takes her at this point. I think you see him.
I think it's at that point because he's like watching her and then
I think it's I don't know, maybe.
I don't know. You're the one who writes everything down.
Yeah, I know. Nuri is hanging dead in the public square. Obi-Wan goes back to the cave and Bail is there. Or Leah. So they did take Leah. And he says, you couldn't save Anakin, but you could save her. They're going to die you. And so then Obi-Wan digs up his lightsaber.
He goes off into the middle of the Dune Sea.
Digs up the lightsabers.
He's like digging them up and he's like, oh, wow. And you predicted at this point, you said it's going to be Anakin and his lightsaber there. He like digs it up and it's both of them. And you're like, what? Wow, it's the lightsaber he's going to give to Luke soon.
And I think it was the same old box that he had the lightsabers in. And you find out that it's Reva that's behind it. She's behind
lightsaber.
Stealing or taking Princess Leia.
Yeah.
And then we move on to part 2. On a dangerous, crime-ridden world, Obi-Wan becomes a target.
Always.
So he takes a transport to Daiyu, comes in through heavy clouds, basically still trying to track the ship. And the guy's like, the person at the port, it's like, you're in Daiyu now. All the signals in or out are blocked. People like their secrets out here.
Yeah.
And you said it didn't look like Daiyu. You said it looked like another planet.
I don't know what Daiyu looks like. I just said it reminds me of two separate things, actually. It reminds me of the Urbu district of Coruscant, the lower levels. And it also reminds me of, from the Guardians of the Galaxy video game, the Nowhere, because it also has that kind of vibe with the neon signs and like street vendors everywhere.
So that's what I wrote down in my notes. Daiyu looks like the lower levels of Coruscant.
Yeah.
So I was same here. He says out loud, not really out loud, but kind of under his breath, if I ever needed guidance, Master, it's now. Once he says that, a clone veteran says, you spare any credits? So he gives him some credits.
Yeah. I feel bad for the clones because they were really good at their job, but then they just threw him out for a cheaper outsource.
The same gentleman that played Boba Fett plays all the clones. He was playing this old clone with a raggedy beard and everything. Looked like he was wearing the blue. Somebody said he was from the 501st, which is Vader's Legion of clones. Anakin's, sorry.
Under the command of Rex.
Rex, yeah.
I was thinking of a clip that I had heard earlier of Anakin and Obi-Wan arguing. Anakin says maybe Rex is getting like bored of Cody's strategic and like know-it-allness. And then he's like, well, maybe Cody's getting distracted by Rex's insolence and not following directions. And that's what I was thinking of.
I wrote down here too also because the subtitle said male and female stormtroopers. So that was new. There's female stormtroopers. That's new. That's cool. Obi-Wan's getting asked about drugs again. I mean, he looks strung out all the time. I guess, death sticks. They ask him on Coruscant, and here they ask him, hey, old man, you want some spice? Fun fact, that's his actual daughter that plays that character.
Yeah, you told me that. Well, I think it was when we were watching the episode, actually.
Yeah, so they have a little back and forth about daughters, which is kind of funny, and that's his actual daughter.
Yeah.
So Obi-Wan meets a Jedi, because after that he asks for some help, and then he comes across this kid, the kid says he knows a Jedi. So Obi-Wan goes to meet a Jedi, and he says, I'm looking for a Jedi. One guy says, I'm Haja Elstree, Jedi. And he's like, a girl's been kidnapped. I need your help. Guy says, I'll help you. $500 for this, $300 for that. I'm helping people, out of the goodness of his heart. And Obi-Wan's like, that's really, shedding a lot of light.
I really like his phone call, the phone call he does with the Border Patrol.
Yeah, if you didn't know he was fake, like we talked about, at that point, you kind of knew he was fake.
He was saying things like, I am now entering your mind.
I am doing a Jedi mind trick on you. Oh, and the guy's like, this is a Jedi mind trick.
It's
like
real.
You knew it was fake. And he had the magnets. He was using magnets to like close the thing, like he had the Force and stuff.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna go on my 10-minute break and then use the magnets in his palm to close the windows.
I guess he did help him because basically Obi-Wan finds Leia in a chemical plant or lab. Needles is there, Flea, the one that captures Leia. They throw a spice bomb, or Obi-Wan does, because he has that, spice the girl gave him.
Yeah.
And he already had a mask on from being in the plant. Reva discovers Flea and his drug companions. Reva used Leia as bait without informing the Grand Inquisitor. So the Grand Inquisitor says, I will take Kenobi in myself. You are no longer required. Reva says, but I brought Kenobi. So then Reva gets pissed.
Yeah, she's very one-dimensional so far. Her only goal, get Kenobi.
Get Kenobi.
Literally no other motive so
Get
far.
out of my way. I'm getting Kenobi.
Exactly.
Reva sends out a bulletin to let every bounty hunter on Daiyu know Kenobi is here. She basically says, he will reveal himself and I will be waiting.
Yeah.
Which she tells Flea and his compatriots. So Obi-Wan knocks out a bounty hunter, you see, and he kind of sees pictures of himself as they're kind of wandering through. And Leah's like, you did lie, and that's what you were hiding. You're the reason why I'm here. They took me to get to you. And then feisty Leia runs off, is discovered by Obi-Wan, and they kind of fight their way. And I thought it was cute when he bought her a little robe-like thing, a little covering.
Yeah.
And she's like, I want these gloves too. And he's like, no, you're not getting the gloves. And he's like, the gloves as well. So she talked him into the gloves. I thought that was funny. But they're on the rooftops. She's running through the rooftops. Reva's got some bounty hunters waiting. Obi-Wan's pinned down by 2 bounty hunters. Reva does some cool parkour.
Of course. Very unnecessary parkour, too.
It was just very unnecessary, but it reminded me of like that episode of The Office when they were doing parkour.
Yeah.
And the one kid jumped in the dumpster and fell through or whatever, or the boxes or whatever. I mean, but she was doing some hardcore parkour.
Wow, Dad.
You like that?
And it was funny because it was cool at the beginning where she was like doing these big jumps, and then she did this thing where she like jumped and then ran on a wall backwards and then jumped and got to the other side. I was like, you could have just jumped over the thing in front. That was very unnecessary.
She was showing off her skills, and God love her. I mean, it was great. Leia jumps and falls, and Obi-Wan uses the Force to catch her. Earlier, she wanted him to use the Force. She's like, make me float. Make me float. I want you to make me float. He's like, we can't use the Force. It'll give out our location or whatever. So I guess she gets her opportunity to float here, or she would have died.
It looks more like a Force slow to me than like a Force pull or push.
Yeah, he really had to concentrate like he was taking a crap or something. It was a, kind of thing.
Yeah.
To get her not to fall. And then she's like, you really are a Jedi. Well, of course. I mean,
it's Obi-Wan.
It's Obi-Wan Kenobi. She doesn't know. She's like, old Ben, he used to help my dad in the wars.
That was back in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, back in the Clone Wars.
You used to fly in the Clone Wars?
You hear over the loudspeaker that all travel's been canceled, so you're like, oh, crap.
You're like, oh, they're stuck here
They're
now.
stuck on Daiyu. Haja tells them to go to the cargo port. There's people out there that can help you.
Yeah, and it's like, because it's all run by droids, and so they're all like running their way there, and then it cuts back to Haja, and then the third sister finds him, and he's like, oh wow, yeah, no one's trying to be like a real Jedi.
He's like, that's not me, that's not Agnes there. That hurt, you know.
He's like, I'm the Jedi you're looking for. You finally caught up with me.
Yeah, she was like, what are you? I don't even know what you are. Like, I don't even feel you through the Force.
It was really funny, that scene.
Yeah, that was fun. And then also when Obi-Wan mentioned Haja's name, he's like, you remember my name? Like, you know, so he says, go, you know, to these coordinates and they'll help you. Reva discovers Obi-Wan and Leia trying to get on the cargo ship. He sends Leia to the cargo ship.
And he's like hiding behind boxes, and
she's like, Obi-Wan.
She gives him like an exposition dump to try to scare him.
Obi-Wan.
She's like, it's Anakin, bro. He's alive.
Yeah, Lord Vader will be pleased. And she's like, you didn't know? Anakin is alive.
And he takes his moment. He's like, and you take the whole moment for that.
Yeah, he's like, and then the Grand Inquisitor shows up and he's basically going to, you know, take over, and then Reva turns and stabs him. And you're like, what the what? Because if you watch, you know, the Rebels and stuff like we'd have, you know that the Grand Inquisitor, I mean, spoiler, shouldn't die.
Yeah, he should be, because he dies in that.
Yeah, he dies in that. So that's after this, you know, so he's got to still be alive to be in that.
So it's like kind of like, did they just break the timeline?
Continuity or whatever, yeah.
Or is he just going to survive and this meant nothing to anything?
Obi-Wan escapes with Leia, and then Obi-Wan calls out to Anakin. Then we see Vader in the Bacta tank and his eyes open. And it's Anakin Vader. But it's more Vader. It's Ann Vader.
Vaderkin.
Vaderman. That's Anna Vader.
I feel like I said Vaderkin. But you know, it's fine. You can just keep going with yours. Yeah. And then that's the end of episode 2.
And then you got part 3, because this is what they're titled. And this one had a very short analysis. It says, Obi-Wan searches for allies.
Very simple.
They're on the cargo ship. Obi-Wan calls out to Master Qui-Gon. Master, are you there, Master?
It'd be cool to see Qui-Gon.
I know.
Get some Liam Neeson up in this.
Yeah, he's like, I got a set of skills on me, brother.
Yeah, particular set of skills.
I'll take care of Anakin Skywalker, Vader slash Vader.
I don't want you to get taken.
Darth Man. I'll take care of him. And they intercut with Anakin Vader coming out of the Bacta tank. So you have his arms and his legs and his suit and pieces getting attached to his body. It's all sinister looking.
Yeah.
And that little thing in his chest that you always see.
With all the buttons.
Yeah, they like needled that into him. I didn't know that. And I forgot for a minute that he didn't have any arms or legs.
Yeah.
I remember him losing the one arm, but then he lost the arm and the 2 legs, but he'd already lost an arm. But I remember him crawling up with the one arm.
You had asked me when we saw it, and you were like, I thought he had an arm left. And I was like, no, because he had gotten that arm cut off by good old Count Dooku.
That is true. I remember, you know, as a kid, when we didn't have any of the prequels, I did it good.
Nice.
We didn't really have Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi. We might have had Empire Strikes Back, but there was this word. It was in some magazine that I think they interviewed Mark Hamill, and they were talking about how, you know, that he got this way, Anakin Vader got this way because of lava, and that there was this fight with Obi-Wan and lava, and we would always imagine that. And I mean, to actually see that in the prequels was really cool. And then, you know, to see this, I think is really cool, but people are like, you know, they're just pissed off at Disney right now. I don't know why.
I like how with Darth Vader, he uses the dark side to get stronger, of course, but his connection to the Force was pretty weak because all of his limbs were cut off. So he's actually not as strong as he could be.
It's true. It's something I was watching, you know, because the next sentence is Darth Vader's in his throne room. I thought it was funny that one of the YouTubers was talking about how there's so many meetings. The Empire and the Rebels, they have so many meetings.
Yeah.
So he was like, you know, let me look around my office. You know, it was pretty funny there on Mustafar. He basically asked Reva, where is he? Reva appears to him, you know, hologram.
What, like Batman? Where is he?
Yeah, where is he? We have probes out looking for his exits. And Reva says he'll pay for the Grand Inquisitors. And before she can finish, because he's not really dead, Vader says the Grand Inquisitor means nothing. Kenobi is all that matters.
Yeah.
And then he says, prove yourself, and the position of the Grand Inquisitor is yours. Fail me, and you will not live to regret it.
Yeah. There's Darth Vader being cool again.
Cool again. He's getting all old school on him. Cargo ship, Leia, Obi-Wan's fixing Lola for Leia. She wants him to speed up the ship, but he's like, can't. She's like, can't you use the Force on it or something? I mean, she's always wanted to use the Force. Like, he'll be Force drained with Leia around. Like, bring me a cup of coffee. Force it.
You just pick it up with the Force. It's not. We're all sitting down. We don't want to get up.
Bring me a chair. Can you force it? You know?
Force the chair, bro.
And he's like, that's not how it works. Kind of reminds me of in the later movies when Han says, that's not how the Force works.
Yeah.
Well, Leia's like, how does it work? She's like, the Force. And he's like, how does it feel when you turn on the light after, you've had a nightmare? And he's like, it feels like that.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. So Leia and Obi-Wan, they go to Mapuzu. It's a mining system. The one thing that I do not like about this is that typically when you're watching Star Wars, they'll tell you what planet, they'll show you like on the bottom or something what planet, and they're not doing that in this.
Or say one of the locations like the Outer Rim.
They'll give some kind of knowledge, to what planet you're on, and they're not really doing that. Like parts of Tatooine. I know we've been to Tatooine a lot, but I was just wondering what cities that they were. Where's his Yopi hiding? Where's his cave? Was he working? Because I was thinking maybe he's working in the Dune Sea. Like where are these play? And they didn't really give us that expose. Is that how you say it?
I guess.
I don't know.
Exposition.
Thank you. When he's going to the meeting point over in the desert, he sees Anakin.
Yeah.
And so this is the third episode, and people are like, is this all they're going to show of him? Why did they bring Hayden Christensen back if they're going to show him, as Darth Vader all the time and in makeup all the time? And then we get to see him at this one point.
Yeah.
They don't know what's happening, in episodes 4 and 5 and 6.
Don't spoil it.
Oh, I won't spoil it. Reva comes back saying, Obi-Wan, he is on one of the mining systems. The fifth brother says, you don't know that. You're not in charge here. Fourth sister says he could be anywhere. That seat is mine, not yours. He says, send out the remaining probes. And she's like, I just spoke to Lord Vader. It's like, you spoke to him? Like seventh brother was surprised. You spoke to Vader?
Yeah. Because you're not supposed to. You're supposed to, give that to your higher up, and then your higher up will go to his higher up, and then...
She went straight to Vader.
That's not how it works.
Talking to Vader. It's not how the Force works. Obi-Wan and Leia arrive at the meeting point. There's no one there to meet them. Leia flags down a transport with Freck. He says, hop in to the port. Freck has a conversation about the Empire. They said they're farmers from Tall, Orden, and Luma. The transport has a Empire signal on it.
Yeah, because he's a good old Empire man.
He loves the Empire. Freck picks up 4 stormtroopers. Stormtrooper 2 says they're moving us around looking for a Jedi. And then Obi-Wan, he accidentally calls Luma Leia, but Obi-Wan had a cover story.
He's like, that was her mother name.
Yeah, and they were visiting where mom came from and all this other stuff. This led Leia to say, you knew my real mother, didn't you? Because he talks about her real mother for a minute. And he talked about that on the last episode as well, about her mother.
He keeps dropping hints.
Yeah, which is sweet, I think. Leia says to him, are you my real father? And then Obi-Wan reveals something here. Spoilers, is he remembers his mother's shawl, his father's hands, and he says, I remember a baby, I think a brother.
Yeah.
And a couple of the YouTubers that I watch said Obi-2 Kenobi. So to Obi-Wan, might be his brother. And then they said, what did they say, Bronobi? Or
I don't know, I wasn't there.
I don't know. Bro Kenobi?
I still don't know.
Obi Bro Kenobi? Maybe that's what they said. Obi Bro Kenobi.
Okay.
I don't know. Anyway, I thought that was funny. Evidently you didn't. That's all right. So they go to the checkpoint, and there's 4 more stormtroopers, and Freck says, found a couple of strays. Check them out. They bring on a probe droid, and you're like, oh, crap.
Like, oh, they're going to recognize them.
Obi-Wan Kenobi shoots them all, and the probe droid right in the eye, but not until they identify him. And it gets to the Inquisitors. Kills all those 4 stormtroopers and kind of knocks Freck out. And then another transport with 3 stormtroopers and an Empire officer show up. They shoot and get Obi-Wan on the ground. They find out the Inquisitors do that. It's Mapuzo, the Mid-Rim, Type 2 planet. 7 says to Reva that you were right.
Yeah.
You find out that the officer is not an officer.
Yeah, the rebel spy.
And she can get them to a pilot. They got to lay low in droid maintenance with Ned B. Leia introduces Ned B to LO-LA59, which is Lola. Thought that was cool. They're basically behind there. They're in a safe house. And there's safe houses to link the system from what she says, and they call it the path. Quinlan Voss was here, and they say that they're going to Jabit. That's where the path next goes. Uh-oh. Guess who shows up?
I would like to know how many Jedi have gone through there.
I don't know. We know Reva tore part of the wall off of the place, so maybe she took the whole wall. Who knows? Some of the YouTubers that went through the videos and were talking about the Jedis that were on the wall. Darth Vader's and the Inquisitors show up. They are trying to get Obi-Wan out. He attacks a whole family. Obi-Wan escapes, runs away. Vader's chasing after him, ignites his lightsaber. Obi-Wan runs. When Obi-Wan hears Vader say, "You cannot run, Obi-Wan," then he ignites his lightsaber.
Yeah, because he's all menacing.
Obi-Wan, what have you become, Vader? I am what you made me. Which some of the memes that have come out after that has said, yeah, but I thought I made you a lot shorter. Because he did cut off all his limbs. So he's like, wait a minute, you're too tall. What happened? I am what you made me. Obi-Wan runs. Leia asks Talia to go back and help Obi-Wan. Vader, Obi-Wan fight. It's one-sided, basically.
Very much so.
Vader's just beating the crap out of him with his lightsaber. At one point, it's almost like he's going after him like Luke went after, Vader.
Yeah.
When he was crashing him down with the one hand up with the lightsaber, and, Luke's just cramming down on him. That's the same thing that Anakin was doing here to Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Reva discovers a safe house. Vader throws some brickouts down. He's going to have a Obi barbecue. So he burns Obi-Wan. The stormtroopers show up. Talia shows up. The fire went out. I guess he made the fire go out. And I guess he was getting ready to cross. And then she set the fire back ablaze. She reignited the fire with the blaster. And a lot of people were saying here that they didn't understand why the stormtroopers or Darth Vader didn't go through. And it took the droid a long time to get to Obi-Wan, and why he couldn't have just used the Force to pick him up. And so there was some stuff there, which I understand. Kind of like earlier, we didn't talk about it, but you said something about the gate. And they had these lasers on the gate, but they had this thing beside the gate where it was like blast, for the energy of the gate, like why they couldn't just jumped over there.
Yeah, there was like this giant gate, and then there was like 2 hills right next to it that were very much climbable if you just like got up there right. And you could just gun right over the checkpoint, but you had to go through there anyway.
Sort of the same here, with why couldn't he have done that? But anyway, Ned Beats saves Obi-Wan. Talia indicates to ready the transport to Jabim. They left Leia.
Yeah.
Leia runs into Reva. She's asking, Reva, are you the one that I'm supposed to meet? And Reva says, I'll take you from here.
Yeah.
And that's part 3.
I guess you'll have to see more next time.
Yeah, so we'll talk about episodes 4, 5, and 6 on the next Hero Chat show. We ready to talk about the game?
Yeah.
We're gaming together on the Hero Chat show.
Jedi Fallen Order. We went back in the archives, and we're going to talk a little bit about the old game and a little bit about the new game coming up, Jedi Survivor.
There you go. I was waiting for you to find it.
Yeah.
Jedi Fallen Order, I completed this game 100%. I even got all the achievements. I really liked this game. I wanted to play it again before we did this, but I let my friend borrow that game, and he still hasn't finished it, so I'm waiting to get that back. Let's get into the game. Do you want to say anything about it before we start?
I just like the premise of the game. I like that they used the character that they used, and they modeled him after, a real actor.
Yeah.
I like that. And I watched some of the gameplay as you were playing it when you first played the game, and you would show me some of the planets and some of the world building and some of, the ways you were learning the Force and all that kind of stuff. This also had some Inquisitors.
Yes.
And it had the Fortress Inquisitorius. So they kind of involved the Inquisitors too. That's all I have to say right now.
A little bit of backstory. This game is about a Padawan who was a Padawan when Order 66 happened, and his master died trying to save him. He got into this escape pod and got shipped off to this planet, and he's been working as a little junk miner or something. I forget what they're called. Scrap work. I don't remember what they're called. It's this whole thing where he's doing this job for 5 years since Order 66 happened. So what he's doing is he's there with one of his friends, his friend coworker. His boss tells him there's an order, and so they go out. Long story short, his friend named Prouf falls. So what you have to do is, one of the first Force moves you get is called Force Slow. And so you have to press the Force Slow button to save your friend, revealing that you are indeed a Jedi, or at least capable of the Force.
I do like that they have the rats in the lower layers, because they talk about those in Star Wars all the time.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of a cool little nod.
He's finding all these ways to get through this place, and he goes through a little half vent that he could sort of fit in, and he's crawling across, and you guys don't need to come out again. Not like last time. And so he gets past that. He saves his friend, and his friend's like trying to help him. He's like, and his friend's all, hey, you should get out of here. You don't want to end up old and sad like me. And then they get on a train to go home, and they're like talking about it a little bit. And Cal Kestis, our Padawan protagonist, he falls asleep, and he has this force dream where he's following Prof through the train that they're in, and then he can't open one of the doors that he went through. And he turns around, and it turns into one of the hallways from whatever cruiser he was on when Order 66 happened. And it's like the classic thing with the slanted glass doors. He's walking through, and there's like this black R2 unit that goes by, and then this door opens in front of him, and it's his master, and he's like all scared. He wakes up from this dream. We see that the train has stopped, and Prof's like trying to calm him down. He's like, don't, it's probably just like a normal maintenance check. But they get out and they go into a line. They see stormtroopers around there. He's getting kind of nervous. Cal's over here like, oh, I don't know what's happening. This is very, very worrying. So what he does is he just sits there until out comes two Inquisitors, one named the Second Sister and one named the Ninth Sister.
The Ninth Sister was like kind of like a bit bigger than the Second Sister, right?
She was a different race, and I'm not sure what race that is, because I don't think I've seen that in Star Wars before.
Yeah, so she was kind of a real big character, you know, kind of some girth to her, where, you know, she would seem like, oh man, she's probably destructive. And just not knowing the Force, like just seeing her as a bouncer or something, you'd be like, oh crap, I'm not gonna mess with her.
She's like a brute. Like you'd be scared to get in a fist fight with her. They're in the lineup, and they're like, we're looking for a Jedi, because we find out that, and you could see it earlier if you go back, that when Prof was falling, there was a probe droid that was circling, and they had seen the Force be used. And so they're like trying to interrogate, and then Prof steps up because he's a good guy, and he's like, let's just all calm down. These guys don't even care if we like live or whatever. Second Sister starts pulling out her lightsaber, and she's like, you're right, we don't. And then she kills him. This like riles up Cal, and he's like, oh no you didn't, and he pulls out his lightsaber. You see it's like kind of broken at the bottom to where it might have been a two-sided lightsaber before, or at least it's sustained some battle damage. He ignites it. It's a blue lightsaber, and he tries to swipe it at the Second Sister, and she blocks it immediately, and then she like forces him back into the Ninth Sister's hand, and she says this line that I think of a lot, and it's like, I found the Jedi. I think about that whenever something like that happened in Star Wars.
She did it all by herself, right?
Yeah.
No help at all.
No help. The Second Sister was just sitting there doing nothing. But he gets out of the Ninth Sister's hands and lands on this train. I assume they go back in their ships, and it involves this whole thing where you're learning all the basics of fighting with a lightsaber. And this game is beautiful, especially with all its lighting and the combat style. So eventually, after getting through this train most part, you get to the very end to where the ship is here to pick you up, and you don't know these people. They're like, come on, you need to come with us. And Second Sister jumps out of nowhere and it starts a boss battle. So you're fighting. I don't think there's any way to win this boss battle. Eventually it gets to a point where it starts a cutscene to where it gets you out of there. You're on this ship named the Mantis with two people on it. There's one character named Grease. I forget what he is. I don't know. He has 4 arms though, and he's the captain of the ship. And then there's Seer Junda, which we don't know much about yet.
Is that character sort of like the one that's driving in the Solo movie that has the 4 arms that's on their crew?
Maybe. I would need to remember it.
I'm not sure what kind of creature that was either, but
a lot of interesting people that I never remember in Star Wars.
Something I read about, about this movie, and they were talking about, the next one that they hope that they might have changed is it's got great world building, and it has great special effects and lighting and all that stuff like you were saying. But the one thing is, like, if you're like on the other end of the planet, like you have to run all the way back to the ship. Like you can't go, snap your fingers and you got to like, oh crap, I'm on the other side of the planet. I got to run back all the way out to the other side of the planet.
Yeah.
They were saying that they hope that might change where you could go to different places and maybe not have to run all the way back.
Something about that is that was a design choice made by the producers of the game or whoever made that choice. And it was so you would actually feel more immersed in the game, like you actually had to get places without just having like this cheat, because it's not supposed to be easy. Like you have to fight through all the enemies, you have to get back to the ship. it's a whole thing, and it makes you feel like you're a Jedi just trying to survive on his own. You find out that Seer Junda used to be like a Jedi, but she isn't anymore. And you get to this planet, and Seer's like, all right, you need to go find this special thing on this planet. And he's like, what does that mean? She's like, just go find it. And he walks for like 2 minutes until he finds this little droid. And I don't think I've seen this unit of droid before in a Star Wars media, but it's called a BD unit, and his name is BD1.
First time they showed it, I think, was in the Book of Boba Fett when Mandalorian came back to Tatooine.
Yeah, I remember that.
And she had one of those droids.
A BD unit, yeah.
That's the only time I've ever seen one too. Because I remember you showing me the droid, and because you were excited about like the different skins, and you could change the paint color and lightsabers and different things for the game. So I remember you showing me that.
Yeah, there's a lot of good customization in this game. You can customize your poncho, which I wish it was like your outfit, but it's really just a over poncho. And there is some under the thing, but it's really just color difference. But you can really customize the lightsaber if you collect all the parts for it, which I really enjoyed. So you find this little BD unit. You're like, there's this big temple over there. I might as well go explore that. And it's this, I forget his name, but there's this guy, and he's like, I have a list of all the younglings that's really helpful that I took from the Jedi archives. And he goes back to the ship with that information and be like, great, what do we gotta do? And he's like, all right, so I saw like another hologram that this man left about going to either a planet called Zepho or Dathomir. And of course, if you know of Dathomir, you know that's a very dangerous place to go. Like, that's where the Night Sisters are, and that's where Darth Maul is from, and his brother
Sage Opress, I think is what his brother's name is.
Something like that, yeah. You may have to make the choice. I like the physical choice because you can either go to one of these planets. It's your journey. You get to figure out how you do it. I went to Dathomir first, but it's only because I had heard before I got the game that you could get a double lightsaber if you went to Dathomir first. And so I did that. There wasn't much story to be had there yet. Eventually I collect some stuff, I kill some monsters there, and then I go over to Zepho, where you have to like, you see that the Empire's already here, and they're like, you actually can explore a little bit, find out that they were like taking people out of this little town area, and you're like, I wonder what they're doing here. And then you, after a bunch of searching, you end up in a Zepho kind of grave tomb, and I can barely remember what happened here. Because there's like 3 different tombs in the game, and 2 of them are on Zepho. But one main thing about Cal is after Order 66, his connection to the Force was all wonky. So throughout the game, you have to learn all of the things again. So you only start with Force Slow, and then eventually you learn like Force Push and Force Pull, all this other stuff. And it's a really cool addition.
I remember, you wanting to get that double lightsaber, and then the different colors of the lightsaber too.
Yeah.
You had to go to different places to get the different crystals, to get the different color lightsabers as well. That was kind of like part of your track.
Well, the crystals was a whole different thing. It was actually a part of the story.
Oh, okay, that's what I mean, yeah.
You go to the tomb, you unlock Force Push, and when you unlock these new abilities, you have a flashback to being a Padawan, being trained by your master Jaro Tapal, which you saw at the beginning when he was having the nightmare sequence. And you can see, I don't know if it's ever been depicted before, but like a little training room. And it's all white, and it's like made of these like boxes that can move up and down and wherever it needs to be to like set up a little obstacle course for what you're trying to learn. So when you're learning wall run, you have to like wall run over here, and then you wall run this way, and he's like very good Padawan. And so as the story goes, normally you get more force powers, and you eventually learn what happened in Cal Kestis' past. So you go to Zepho, you do all that stuff, you learn Force Push and all that, then you go to Dathomir. This is a really bad storytelling because I don't remember most of it.
I remember you fought the 9th sister, you defeated her, and then the last like big boss, right, is the 2nd sister, correct? Where you're fighting her.
So you fight the 2nd sister throughout the game. You only fight the 9th sister once. So like you go to Dathomir, you do all that other stuff, and you go back to Zepho. you go to the second place and you have like a boss battle with second sister. She like force pushes you through a wall and she's about to like come get you. She's about to swipe, and then BD1 closes like this red blast laser door, and she's like, you're lucky. And you learn that the second sister used to be a Padawan, just like someone else that we learn about in other Star Wars media. So you find out that Trilla is the name of second sister, or Trilla's master was named Seer Junda, and that's who we're working with. And he's like, she's not a good person, you shouldn't trust her. And he's like, you're lying. He goes back to his ship and he's like asking if that's true, and she's like telling him the story about how they were hiding. She went out to protect them. They all got captured, and some of them were turned like Trilla. And then once Seer saw Trilla turned, she got like angry and used the dark side, and then she cut herself off from the Force after that because she was so disappointed that she used the dark side. You do this thing where you just go around. You're trying to find this certain thing called the Astrium, I think, so you can go back to the original planet of Bogano, so you can get the little locations of all the younglings. And of course, Trilla is looking for this too. You go to like Kashyyyk, so you can climb the ear tree or whatever it's called, and you fight the ninth sister on top of there. And it's like, that means the only left Astrium is on Dathomir. That's how he says it in the hologram, the old guy. So you go to Dathomir finally. You meet this one guy named Terran Marthalos or something like that. And he's like, I'm just an old hermit. I'm just a normal guy.
But he's not.
He's not. You figure out that he was a Jedi that hid out on Dathomir, and something about Dathomir changed him into this evil person. It eventually leads to a boss fight that I'll mention a bit later. But before that, you get to this little other temple on Dathomir, and so you try to open up the door, but then you see your master, Jaro Tapal there, and you're like, whoa, what's happening? And he's like fighting you, and you like try to attack him, and then he's like holding back, and it's like in this little dual part, and it cuts back to reality, and you've like crushed your lightsaber with your hands, and you like try to turn it on, and it just doesn't work.
You're in trouble now.
That was my only defense.
What do you do without your weapon? I mean, that's what Obi-Wan said to Anakin, like, this weapon is your life.
Exactly.
Don't lose this weapon.
You walk out of there. You walk out of the temple thing, and Terran's there. You don't know he's a bad guy yet. A night sister comes out that you have met earlier, and she's like, all Jedi are evil. You suck. And then she like summons her sisters back from the dead because she's like apparently the last night sister. Terran's like, I'll hold them off. You run. And so all you have to do is run back over the same ground that you had taken to get there. Meanwhile, like all of these things are trying to attack you on your way back, and all you have to do is just run. And then you fly to a planet that the only thing has been mentioned one other time, named Ilum, which was in the Clone Wars show.
Yeah, and it's also the planet they use for
Starkiller Base
in the episode 7. What was that one called?
I don't know.
I can't remember now.
The Last Jedi.
Rise of Skywalker? No.
I don't know. But anyway, something interesting about that is after the game, you can see a little bit of where they've been mining out. So you can already see the beginning of like that ring.
For Starkiller Base. That's pretty cool.
And you go to Ilum and you're like, what are we doing here? And it's like, you're going to find your own Kyber crystal now. And so you go in there, you're like having all these flashbacks. I'm trying to remember where this memory happened. I think it was here. I'm just going to say it was here. So then it cuts into a flashback to where you're like training for a bit.
Force Awakens is the name of the episode 7.
Right, I forgot. It cuts to this thing where you're training under your master, and you jump up to the top room, and he's like, we're getting a message from like the Emperor, and you're like, oh no, I know what's about to happen. Jaro's talking to you, and you see in the background the clone turn around, pull up his little hologram, and you're like, oh no.
It's Order 16, right?
Yeah, Order 16. He's like, execute Order 16. And you're like, oh no, that's it.
That's not right. Wait a minute. It's execute Order or something else.
No, that's it. So then, as you hear the Emperor say this, you see Jaro Tapal like kind of stumble back and hold his head, and it's reminiscent of how Yoda also reacted to Order 66. So you're like, is that guy really this powerful that he can sense it just like Yoda did? The clone trooper turns around to a fire, and almost immediately, Jaro takes out his lightsaber, opens the back part of it because it's a double lightsaber, and he cuts him in half in 2 different places, and then he unignites his lightsaber, puts it back on his hilt, and tells his Padawan to run. And so then there's...
Wow.
Yeah, he's really cool. And then you're like running, and keep in mind, you're just a kid, and you're just like running through these vents because apparently It's like a route that he's been trained for. And he eventually gets to this part where he's like in the elevator, in the outside of the elevators. He drops his lightsaber when he's being shot at. And so you're like, this kid cannot keep a lightsaber for the life.
Lightsaber is your life. He should have had Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and what I like about this part is Jar Paul comes out and says, Padawan, your lightsaber. I think that's really funny, because then like Cal looks up and he says, sorry, master. Just keep running. And then there's this one part where you're like trying to type on a computer to open a door for your master to get through, and the door opens, you just see him like kill a bunch of clone troopers to get through, and you're just admiring him as he's walking by. And then it eventually gets to the escape pod parts, and he's like trying to open a thing while Jar Paul is like trying to keep all of them at bay, but then they all shoot and he's like getting shot at a little bit. Cal's like, oh no, and he runs behind him. He gets shot on the ear to where I guess it's gonna scar, and then he uses a mass force slow on all of the clone troopers at once, and he gets his master into the escape pod, and they launch off. Like Jar Paul's like dying on the floor of this escape pod, and he's like, Padawan, take this, and like hands him his broken lightsaber to where the bottom's cut off, and you're like, oh,
that's where he got the lightsaber from. That half work
lightsaber. So now you know that you're using your master's lightsaber, and so you're on Ilum, and you finally like swim through all this below freezing water, and you finally get to this crystal that has been calling out to you, apparently, because that's what it does. And you like prick it off, and he's like, I finally got it. And he's like cold because he's just swimming in freezing water, and it breaks in half, and he's like, ugh.
After all that,
BD1 comes up from behind him, and he like plays this hologram of the guy that we've been seeing the entire time, and he's like, BD1, I'm gonna install these in you, but it's like gonna erase your memory. You're gonna like have to find someone that can help, and you'll regain your memories from that. Just like kind of, Cal's like, wow, you did all that and you chose me or whatever. You know, that classic thing. He's like, all right, I'll fix this somehow. And before you had left the ship, Seer had given you her lightsaber because she had still had it. And so now you have your broken lightsaber, which was your master's, and you're now like mentor kind of. And you put that on the table because he was like a scrap mechanic kind of. So he pulls out like a little welder tool, which he had used before. There's like all these upgrade tables throughout the game, and he makes a lightsaber from both parts, to where one side is his master's, Jar Paul's, and the other side is Seer Junda's. And it lights up on both ends, but then he splits it apart, and it turns into two, and he puts it back together. And that's a new move you can use now. But before you do that, you hold your kyber crystal up to the light, and you like choose the color from there. And you can choose, there's a couple different colors. There's like pink, a magenta, a purple, a light blue, a green, and orange. And I think that's all. I chose the light blue when I played. Then you can switch it whenever you want from a workbench. And you go back to your ship, you go on back to Dathomir, and you have a boss fight with Terran Mathrolos. And you like kind of bond a little bit with the Night Sister named Marin. She had asked something about his lightsaber, and he like threw it to her at this point. And they're like kind of bonding a little bit, and they're like kind of bonding over the hatred of Terran because they both know he's bad. So then you have a boss fight with him, and she's like helping you at some points, and then after the boss fight, she like buries him alive in the ground of Dathomir, and then you get the Astrium. Baron's like, whoa, cool, that's pretty cool. And then Cal's like, you should come with us. He like convinces her, and she's like, yeah, all right. And Cal's like, I don't think Grease is gonna like this. And she says something like, he will. So then they go back to the ship. They go back to Bogano, and so they go down there. He's like, finally, I have the Astrium. We can get the list now. But then he looks at like this reflection of himself, and he has this whole like forced vision of him raising the Padawans, like the younglings, turn them into Padawans, and then them all getting captured by the Empire, some of them dying, and then he turns into an Inquisitor, and you see like him in an Inquisitor outfit with a red lightsaber, which eventually becomes an outfit that you can use when they updated the game. And then you like get out of the vision, and you're like, oh, that is not good. So then he gets the list of the younglings, and who shows up other than Trilla, the second sister, still angry, I guess. They fight. She takes the thing. Cal has this ability that's very rare among the Jedi called a Force Echo, where he can sense the like feelings and emotions and past of an item that he touches or whatever. Before she takes the holocron or whatever it is, he like force grabs her Inquisitor's lightsaber, and he's like feeling all of the horrible emotions and stuff tied to it. And then you finally see her putting on the helmet in front of Seer Junda, and then Seer uses the dark side to get out, and you're like, wow, that's crazy. And then you go back to Seer, and you're like talking and everything, and he put the lightsaber down, and Seer force pulls one of the lightsabers, which you're like, whoa, she cut herself off from the Force, huh? Wow, she just did that. And then she knights him as a Jedi Knight, so he's no longer a Padawan. And they go to like this special fortress where Trilla took the holocron for the kids, and you fight your way through all the enemies. You finally get to this room where it was like the list is just sitting in the middle. You go up to it, and then second sister comes out of nowhere, and you guys are like fighting, and then you beat her, and you're like talking to her or something, and she's like thinking about it. Out of nowhere, she just like stops, and you hear in the background subtly coming up like muffled breathing, and then you're like, oh no, they didn't. And here comes Darth Vader's breathing out of just sound, and you can see the fear up here on Trilla's face, and then he like strikes her down. Here comes Seer running up out of nowhere, and she like jumps at Darth Vader and tries to attack him, and then he just like force flicks her to the side, and she like falls down a something. I don't even know what's down there. And then now you're in a boss battle with Darth Vader, and you're like, how are we just got knighted? I don't think we can do this.
Are we even ready to do this, right?
Yeah, and then before you can do anything in that boss battle, what Darth Vader does is he pulls you forward and starts force choking you immediately. And you're like, we are not ready for this. And so what you have to do is while he's doing that, you have to move your camera and force pull a large pipe that you pull it down, and then with the other hand, while he's force choking you, he stops it, pushes you back. And so then you have to run, and you get out of there, and you feel like safe for a little bit until he appears again. You're like trying to fight, but he's almost winning, and then Seer comes out of nowhere and gets one good hit on him. Oh, and then BD1 like climbs on him, and since he's like part droid, he electrocutes him with his foot. Seer's like passed out, and so what Cal does is he breaks the window because it's underwater. Darth Vader is like trying to hold the water back as the BD1, Cal Kestis, and Seer Junda all escape through the water, but he's like trying to swim up, and he like starts to drown, and then you see the Night Sister Marin swim down and use like her magic to save him. And then you wake up back at the ship, and he's like, we finally have the list, and he's like, their fate should be left up to the Force or whatever, and they break it, his lightsaber, and that's basically where the game ends for setting up Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, which looks like they might be bringing back the character where they buried him. There's talk that's, if you've seen the preview for it, that's the one that's in the Bacta tank. Bacta tank.
Which there's been a lot of Bacta tanks in Star Wars recently.
Book of Boba Fett, and now Obi-Wan and Darth, and now in the new trailer for Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's in everything now.
Yeah.
They're really OP.
It's a really cool game. So, I mean, I'm sure you're probably looking forward to the Jedi Survivor.
I definitely am.
To see how they may have changed it up a little bit. He probably doesn't have to use, and learn the Force like he did. Of course, there might still be some, maybe to get him on the master level.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe he'll do something with the other lady.
Something I liked about the game that I didn't mention because it wasn't important to the story was that the difficulty settings for the game were named like Padawan for easiest, Jedi Knight for like, and it tells you like if you go Padawan, it's like all story based, it's not even hard for combat, and then Jedi Knight, it was like it's a little bit hard for combat, but you mostly get it, it's mostly story still. And then it was Jedi Master, which was like you pretty much, this one's a lot of fighting, it's kind of hard. Jedi Grandmaster, where it was like super hard to fight, and I thought I really liked the settings for that because I thought that was a pretty good ranking system.
What did you fight on most of the time?
I wanted to do Jedi Master. If I went back now, I would do Grandmaster.
That's cool. So what would you rate the game out of all the games you've played?
Out of what?
I don't know. What would you give it out of
14 Riddlers?
Yeah. Or how many Inquisitors are there? I don't know.
I really like the game. I like the story. I like the combat. I find it really fun. You basically just have to explore, and I even like the fact that you have to run back to the ship. Of course, it gets tedious, but I mean, it's part of the journey.
Yeah, well, I mean, some people are just saying they might change that in the next game, which I could see your point, but sometimes it would save you some time. Have to run all the way back every time.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for the new game. I'm sure. Well, I'm not sure. I'm hoping it's just as good or even better.
And they haven't dropped a date for it yet. It's 2023, so we don't know the date exactly yet.
Yeah, I think it's just supposed to be like spring 2023 or something. That's like an estimation or something. I don't know. I'm excited for it though.
Yeah, it sounds good. That's Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. That brings us to the end of the show.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long one.
Yeah, we talked a good amount today. Next time, join ZaneMan and Johnny Boy on Hero Chat Show. We'll discuss 2 shows.
2.
No movie.
Yeah.
Because we have Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi, Old Ben, 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
Marvel's Ms. Marvel.
Yeah.
1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to talk about Tidewater Comic-Con.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, we went down there. So check out the Hero Chat Show on Instagram at hero.chat.show. You can also email us at herochatshow@yahoo.com. Listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts, and also tell a friend about Hero Chat Show. See you guys next time.
Goodbye.
Attention listener. If you can hear this, then you've tuned in to our top secret radio frequency. But not to be alarmed. Kick back, relax, and enjoy. We're talking about Marvel and DC, but they don't have it all. At Star Wars, that's easy, but you know who to call. I'm talking about ZaneMan and Johnny Boy.